Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, selamat siang semuanya. Selamat datang di Academy Webinar Rising Trends of ESG Creating New Business Value. Nah, makasih nih kepada kawan-kawan semua yang udah hadir hari ini di siang-siang hari Sabtu, weekend, rela-rela untuk belajar join webinar DKK Academy. Sebelumnya, perkenalkan, saya Vira dari DKK Academy yang selama 2 jam ke depan nanti akan memandu jalannya rangkaian acara webinar kita hari ini. Nah, diharapkan teman-teman bisa stay sampai akhir ya, karena akan ada info mengenai sertifikat juga di akhir acara nanti. Oke, salam kenal kawan-kawan semuanya. Ini udah lumayan banyak yang join kita. Salam kenal semuanya. Nah, karena ini udah mulai banyak join di Zoom nih, agar kita mudah saling mengenal, aku mau minta tolong untuk kawan-kawan ganti format namanya sesuai dengan format yang ditampilkan di layar gitu. Boleh tolong ditampilkan. Halo, salam kenal Mbak Dian. Boleh nih, ini Mbak Dian udah datangnya dari Bandung nih ya, join di DKK Academy Webinar. Oke, buat kawan-kawan yang lain boleh tolong diganti format namanya dengan nama underscore kota. Contohnya bisa Vira underscore Jakarta gitu. Jadi boleh yuk teman-teman yang belum, boleh segera diubah namanya. Halo, salam kenal Mas Hendra dari Jakarta. Oke, boleh Mas, namanya boleh di ya gitu biar biar nanti lebih enak kita ngobrolnya. Ini Mas Hendra dari mana nih? Oh, dari Jakarta gitu. Oke, sambil menunggu kawan-kawan yang lain mengubah format namanya, aku juga mau menjelaskan nih hal-hal yang mungkin perlu diperhatikan sebelum kita memulai webinar ini, supaya nanti kawan-kawan juga bisa mengikuti webinarnya dengan nyaman gitu. Yang pertama, pastikan koneksi internetnya kawan-kawan udah stabil ya. Pastikan kawan-kawan berada di ruangan yang kondusif. Lalu pastikan juga nih kawan-kawan posisi duduknya udah nyaman, karena lumayan nih webinarnya akan 2 jam ke depan, supaya nanti kawan-kawan nggak terganggu sepanjang jalan rangkaiannya acara nanti. Nah, kita juga mohon untuk kawan-kawan mengaktifkan kameranya selama webinar berjalan, dan juga aktif berinteraksi selama acara nanti gitu. Jadi nanti saat dibuka sesi diskusi, sesi interaktif atau tanya jawab, diharapkan kawan-kawan nanti bisa ikut berpartisipasi gitu ya, gitu langsung diaktifkan aja mikrofonnya dan langsung bicara gitu. Dan jangan lupa juga karena webinar ini topiknya penting banget gitu, jangan lupa untuk siapin catatannya. Boleh buku catatan, boleh juga ada yang mau ngetik-ngetik di laptop, boleh silakan gitu. Pastikan kawan-kawan mencatat hal-hal penting yang akan disampaikan selama webinar kita hari ini. Nah, ini sudah ganti semua kah nama-namanya? Halo, ada Vivi dari Depok, ada Mbak Siti. Oke, nggak apa-apa Mbak Siti, lagi bed rest tapi rela ikutan webinar. Nggak apa-apa Mbak Siti, boleh tolong diganti aja format namanya ya Mbak Siti. Nah, kita punya teman-teman dari Depok. Dari mana lagi nih? Jakarta. Dari mana lagi? Bandung. Boleh teman-teman yang lain. Wah, ada yang dari Bali. Ada dari Bali, ada dari Malang, macam-macam nih. Ada yang dari Tangerang Selatan. Wah, sama nih kalau Tangerang Selatan, saya juga geng Tangsel nih sama. Oke, nah sebagai tambahan juga kita mau menghimbau kawan-kawan untuk stay hingga akhir acara webinar nanti, karena kita akan membagikan sertifikat bagi kawan-kawan yang mengisi feedback form. Nah, feedback formnya ini nanti kita bagikannya di akhir acara gitu. Jadi kita hanya memberikan sertifikat bagi kawan-kawan yang mengisi feedback formnya nanti. Dan jangan lupa kita juga ada giveaway buat kawan-kawan yang aktif berpartisipasi di sesi webinar kita hari ini, dan akan kita umumkan juga pemenangnya di akhir acara, seperti itu. Ada hadiah apa sih? Kita punya saldo OVO, ada saldo GoPay juga, dan ada giveaway berupa merchandise spesial dari DKK Academy. Yang pertama, akan ada hadiah untuk 1 orang bagi kamu yang mengupload kegiatan DKK Academy di kegiatan webinar hari ini di sosial media. Syaratnya gampang banget, tinggal follow akun Instagram @dkk_academy, bisa upload foto kamu, bisa screen cap materi-materi yang penting lagi ikut DKK Academy webinar gitu, dan jangan lupa tag akun Instagramnya DKK Academy di @dkk_academy. Jadi nanti 1 orang beruntung dengan postingan terbaik akan kita kirimkan giveaway spesial dari DKK Academy. Dan nggak cuma itu, kita juga akan kasih giveaway merchandise untuk 2 penanya terbaik saat sesi Q&A nanti. Gitu. Jadi jangan lupa kawan-kawan untuk terus aktif berpartisipasi dan berinteraksi selama sesi webinar berlangsung. Wah, ini makin lama semakin ramai nih yang masuk, yang baru masuk. Untuk kawan-kawan jangan lupa diganti format namanya dengan nama _kota gitu ya. Oke, ini karena kita baru mulai, baru sapa-sapa gitu, dan ini juga lumayan banyak nih kawan-kawan yang datang di webinar hari ini gitu. Biar suasana lebih cair, kita pemanasan dulu gitu. Kita pemanasan, kita akan main game yang namanya Would You Rather gitu. Cara mainnya gimana? Gampang banget. Jadi akan ada 2 pilihan. Nanti akan ada 2 pilihan nih, kawan-kawan bisa lihat di layar. Kawan-kawan cuma perlu pilih 1 pilihan yang paling cocok sama preferensinya kawan-kawan gitu. Jadi nanti pilihannya ada A atau B, kawan-kawan bisa langsung ketik aja jawabannya di kolom chatnya, di kolom chat Zoom. Nanti akan ada beberapa pertanyaan yang teman-teman bisa jawab langsung. Oke, gimana kalau kita mulai? Boleh langsung di next. Would you rather? Oke. Kalau kawan-kawan tiba-tiba ada yang ngasih uang 200.000, kira-kira kawan-kawan akan pilih A, beli kuota buat nelpon ayang, atau B, beli kuota buat mabar. Coba boleh langsung aja ketik jawabannya di kolom chat. Pilih A atau B. Oke, Mas Teja cepet banget nih beli kuota buat mabar. Ada juga Mbak Erina milihnya A, beli kuota buat nelpon ayang, berarti pasti Mbak Erina punya ayang. Yang jawab B ini pasti nggak punya ayang ya kayaknya ya. Beli kuotanya buat mabar aja. Joshua dari Bintaro juga beli kuota buat mabar. Ada yang macam-macam nih. Ada yang A dong gitu. Mbak Sarah cepet banget nih jawabnya A dong gitu. Berarti udah otomatis nih emang sering teleponan sama ayangnya. B, nggak punya ayang soalnya. Iya, sabar ya Mbak ya. Nanti kita sekarang beli kuota buat mabar dulu aja. Nanti ada ayangnya, kita bisa beli kuota buat nelfon ayang. Oke, wah rame banget nih. Oke, coba kita next ya. Would you rather apa nih? Kalau tiba-tiba ada yang ngasih uang 500.000, dari tadi pilihannya ngasih uang terus ya. Tadi 200.000, sekarang punya uang 500.000. Pilih apa? Yang A, beli cilok segerobak, atau B, beli foto Jimin BTS. Cilok aja, nih ada cepet banget jawabnya. Cilok aja. Beli foto ayang, nggak ada pilihannya, Mbak. Beli foto ayang. Oh, ayangnya Jimin ya berarti. Oke, Army is here. Oke. Oke, berarti yang jawab B ini berarti adalah ini ya, Army gitu. Tapi kalau yang jawab A ini kata Mbak Marshanda, biar banyak duit. Oke, beli ciloknya segerobak gitu. Bisa dijual lagi ya, bisa dijual lagi atau dimakan buat sekeluarga bareng-bareng. Oh, ada juga yang beli B tapi dijual lagi. Oh ya, lumayan ya. Ini memang jiwa entrepreneurial para Army ini sangat ini ya, sangat jalan gitu. Dijual lagi pasti kayak popper mobile lebih mahal. Ya, benar-benar banget. Oke, seru nih. Kita lanjut lagi. Masih ada pertanyaan lagi setelah ini. Would you rather? Wah, makin lama nominalnya semakin tinggi nih kawan-kawan. Kalau tiba-tiba ada yang ngasih uang 14 juta, itu lihat uangnya segepok ada di tanah gitu ya. Mau beli iPhone atau mau sedekahin buat tabungan di akhirat. Oke, pilih dunia atau pilih akhirat? Double. Pilih satu aja. Coba, oke. B dong, oke. Ada yang jawab A, beli iPhone. Oke. B dong, gitu. B soalnya nggak suka iPhone, sedekah aja biar rezeki lancar. Amin, Mas Joshua, supaya rezekinya lancar ya. Jadi sedekahin aja. A, bisa dijual lagi kalau lagi butuh uang, boleh juga. Sama ya, kayak konsepnya tadi, beli cilok segerobak buat dijual lagi. Mau dua-duanya, oke deh. Oke. Next, ada lagi kah pertanyaannya? Makin tinggi lagi kalau tiba-tiba ada yang ngasih uang 200 juta. Would you rather beli mobil atau bobo terus mimpi lagi dikasih duit 1 M? A, terus dijual lagi beli mobil. Oh, kayaknya nih A semua ya gitu. Mungkin kalau yang pilihan B kayak ih mager banget gitu ya. Mimpi dikasih duit belum tentu juga akhirnya dikasih ya. Uang cash aja bisa nggak? Wah, nggak ada di dalam pilihan nih, Kak. Mohon maaf, adanya beli mobil atau bobo aja. Nggak suka mimpi ya. Atau sebenarnya mimpi tapi nggak ingat kakaknya. Oke. A dan B ada yang dua-duanya. Jadi mau beli mobil tapi juga mau ngimpi dapat duit 1 M. Oke, seru banget nih. Lanjut, ada lagi? Ah, sudah selesai. Oke, terima kasih kawan-kawan yang udah aktif banget nih berpartisipasi padahal webinar baru aja mulai gitu. Aku yakin pasti semangatnya ini akan bertahan terus sampai webinar kita berakhir gitu. Dan kayaknya udah pada siap nih untuk masuk ke sesi selanjutnya. Saya mau mengingatkan lagi buat kawan-kawan yang baru join, bisa langsung diganti format namanya menjadi nama underscore kota ya. Oke, nah sebelum kita masuk ke sesi utamanya gitu, aku mau tahu dong apa aja sih sebenarnya ekspektasinya kawan-kawan nih mengikuti webinar ini gitu. Pasti kan kawan-kawan datang masuk ke dalam Zoom-nya DKK webinar ini pengen belajar kan gitu, pengen belajar, pengen mengetahui sesuatu. Nah, apa sih sebenarnya ekspektasinya kawan-kawan dari sesi webinar kita hari ini gitu. Nah, kawan-kawan boleh share ekspektasinya dengan mengakses link mural yang ada di layar. Boleh diketik atau diklik aja link yang udah di-share di kolom chat, bit.ly/miring mural DKK. Bisa langsung dibuka aja. Mungkin beberapa kawan-kawan ada yang sudah familiar dengan mural, ada juga mungkin yang baru tahu nih mural seperti apa. Mungkin boleh dibantu share screen-nya kakak admin supaya kawan-kawan bisa ngelihat seperti apa sih muralnya. Oke, ini udah ada beberapa yang masuk ya gitu. Nah, di situ kawan-kawan bisa lihat ada berbagai macam warna sticky notes gitu. Boleh langsung aja diketik satu ekspektasi di satu sticky notes. Caranya gimana? Kawan-kawan bisa tulis ekspektasinya di sticky notes yang ada di mural. Untuk nulisnya nanti bisa tinggal double klik aja di sticky notes-nya, di double klik, klik 2 kali. Misalnya aku tulis nih ekspektasinya pengen tahu, pengen belajar tips implementasi ESG. Nah, nanti aku akan tulis nih tips implementasi ESG di dalam sticky notes-nya gitu. Kalau sticky notes-nya kelihatan kecil banget nih di layar kawan-kawan, ini sebenarnya bisa di zoom in atau kalau yang pakai laptop dan pakai mouse itu bisa tinggal di scroll ke atas, itu otomatis akan ke zoom in gitu. Bisa langsung diklik aja di salah satu sticky notes-nya, langsung diketik ekspektasinya kawan-kawan. Satu sticky notes untuk satu ekspektasi. Nah, mungkin nih untuk kawan-kawan yang pakai handphone mungkin akan agak kesulitan ya buka mural. Nggak apa-apa, kalau mau share ekspektasinya bisa drop aja di chat Zoom-nya, apa sih ekspektasinya kawan-kawan untuk mengikuti webinar hari ini. Coba, ini ada yang udah jawab, pengen belajar ESG. Pastinya hari ini kita akan banyak banget belajar mengenai ESG. Ada yang pengen tahu gimana biar bisa menerapkan konsep ESG di usaha kecil-kecilan. Oh, ini menarik banget nih. Gitu. Kita juga pengen tahu ya, ESG itu tuh bisa diterapkan di company besar aja atau sebenarnya bisa juga diterapkan di bisnis yang skalanya masih kecil gitu ya. Learn more about ESG since it's the objective of my current company. Oh, menarik banget nih. Kelihatannya nulis nih dari corporate nih ya, menarik nih. Boleh, oke, boleh kawan-kawan yang lain diketik aja ekspektasinya. Kira-kira mau belajar apa sih? Diklik 2 kali di sticky notes-nya. Boleh langsung ditulis aja. And I think our speaker is here. Hello, Cory. Please allow me to speak in Indonesian to greet the participants.
Hello, no worry.
Yeah,
Thank
hello.
you. It's a great honor to be here.
Yes, it's great to see you here. We're now the participants are typing their daily expectations for today's webinar.
Wonderful. Thank you. I've been looking at it. Thank you.
Ya, ya. Oke, boleh kawan-kawan. Pengen tahu hubungannya ESG dengan SDG. Okay, so there's some of the audience want to know the relation between ESG and SDG. And
that's a perfect question we're going to talk about today.
Right. Okay. And also how to implement ESG in SME. So it's not only for big corporations, but it can also be applied for SMEs.
Exactly.
Okay. What else? Oke, ada lagi yang mau tulis ekspektasinya? Jangan malu-malu kawan-kawan, ini nggak ada benar, nggak ada salah, jadi kawan-kawan bisa langsung ketik aja, diklik 2 kali, linknya udah di-share di Zoom chat, bit.ly/mural DKK. Ini ada yang baru nulis, how to implement ESG in engineering construction company. Wow, interesting. Bagaimana implementasi ESG dalam kondisi global krisis seperti sekarang? Okay, how to implement ESG in the current global crisis? Okay, how to measure ESG and how it differentiate with SROI? Oh, menarik. Oke, kawan-kawan boleh terus melanjutkan mengisi mural ekspektasinya. Masih bisa diakses terus sampai webinar selesai nanti gitu. Nah, sambil kawan-kawan mengisi terus mural ekspektasinya, mungkin beberapa teman-teman ada yang sudah familiar dengan DKK Academy, ada yang sudah pernah ikutan webinar-webinarnya DKK Academy sebelumnya gitu. Tapi mungkin ada juga yang baru nih pertama kali dengar DKK Academy dan baru join acaranya gitu. Nah, pepatah bilang kalau tak kenal tak sayang gitu. Jadi aku mau memperkenalkan dulu tentang DKK Academy dan apa aja sih kegiatannya DKK Academy. Jadi DKK Academy ini adalah sebuah program pelatihan atau pengembangan skill seputar bisnis dan inovasi yang diselenggarakan oleh DKK Consulting, dan pelatihan ini ditujukan untuk semuanya, baik untuk individu maupun organisasi atau perusahaan, bisa untuk mahasiswa atau pengusaha ataupun para profesional gitu. Jadi DKK Academy terbuka untuk siapa saja gitu. Apa aja sih program-program yang ada di DKK Academy? Kita punya 3 program. Yang pertama DKK Webinar seperti yang hari ini kawan-kawan sedang saksikan, yang sedang diikuti. Lalu ada DKK Workshop juga. Tentunya kalau workshop akan lebih mendalam ya topiknya dibandingkan webinar. Lalu ada juga DKK In-house Training untuk corporates yang memerlukan training lebih intensif untuk para karyawannya dan atau yang membutuhkan training yang lebih customized gitu untuk para karyawannya. Itu boleh banget. Jadi melalui program-program ini harapan kami kawan-kawan bisa mendapatkan pengetahuan atau pemahaman, keterampilan dan skill yang nantinya bisa berguna bagi pekerjaan kawan-kawan sehari-hari ataupun aktivitas bisnisnya kawan-kawan, seperti itu. Nah, kalau masih penasaran, kawan-kawan bisa langsung mengunjungi websitenya DKK Academy di dkkacademy.id atau bisa juga di Instagramnya DKK Academy di @dkk_academy. Begitu. Oke. Nah, ini sudah mulai panas gitu. Hari ini kita akan membahas apa sih? Kita akan membahas topik mengenai ESG gitu. Seperti yang kawan-kawan udah tahu ya gitu. Tadi udah banyak ekspektasinya pengen belajar soal ESG gitu. Nah, kita akan membahas gimana sih sebenarnya tren terbaru dari ESG gini. Mungkin kita kan baru ada beberapa yang mungkin sudah tahu gitu ESG itu apa, atau bahkan sudah menerapkannya gitu di perusahaannya gitu. Mungkin ada juga beberapa yang belum tahu mengenai ESG, atau sudah tahu, sudah pernah dengar mengenai ESG, tapi pengen tahu lebih dalam gitu, pengen belajar lebih dalam mengenai apa itu ESG gitu. Nah, sebelum kita mulai, aku mau tanya dulu nih, bolehkah kawan-kawan raise hand siapa yang belum tahu soal ESG? Is anyone of you here haven't heard about ESG before? So you can raise hand. Oke, ada 3 orang. 3 participants raise hand, belum pernah mendengar mengenai ESG. 7. Kak Dela baru tahu sekarang. Oke, 9. Nah, ini semoga buat kawan-kawan yang belum pernah tahu mengenai ESG, ini bisa mendapatkan ilmu baru ya soal ESG. Kita bisa jadi tahu apa sih sebenarnya ESG, sepenting apa sih gitu kita menerapkan ESG ini gitu. Oke, terima kasih kawan-kawan yang udah raise hand. Boleh di lower hand aja lagi ya yang sudah. Untuk memperdalam lagi mengenai apa sih ESG itu sebenarnya, apa sih signifikansinya gitu, dan apa sih urgensinya menerapkan ESG gitu. Hari ini kita akan membahas hal tersebut lebih lanjut gitu, dan kita sudah kedatangan pembicara yang spesial hadir jauh dari Taiwan untuk membahas topik ESG ini gitu. So please allow me to switch between Indonesian and English because our speaker is coming from Taiwan. Let me introduce him. He is a serial entrepreneur and investor turned social impact ecosystem builder. Following a successful IPO of the medical B2B e-commerce company, he had driven to a global top 50 e-business ranking. He bought, built, and sold companies in industries ranging from pharmaceuticals to fashion. As a father of 3, Corey realized the need for individuals to take action to protect the environment and combat climate change. So Corey started Domi, where he serves as gardener. He also co-founded the Asia Pacific B Corp Association and also launched an official B Lab Taiwan and Taiwan Impact Investment Association. Interesting. So he also lectures at several universities teaching leadership, social innovation in relation to public policy, and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. So here he is to discuss the raising awareness and importance of environmental, social governance in today's business. Please welcome our distinguished speaker, Corey Lien.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Corey.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you for the introduction.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good. I think it's hot here in Jakarta, you know. It's very
Is
hot.
it? It's been getting cooler lately. We're having a
really?
rainy
Okay.
season right now. So it's actually cooled down a little bit this couple of weeks for Taiwan.
I see. Okay, so Corey, I guess you are excited to share your knowledge today to our audience. And I think our audience also interested to learn more from you about ESG as well. As you know, ESG is still a new thing in Indonesia, a new term in Indonesia, but I think more people are showing more interest in ESG, like the big companies as well as startups and also investors. So I think our session today will be very interesting to know more about what is ESG and how is the current market trend and why we should care about ESG, what is the benefit, and how it can create value to us. And probably you can also share a bit about the strategy on how to implement the ESG.
Sure, let me do that. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, can't wait no more. So Corey, please, the screen is yours.
All right, thank you. So it's a great honor to be here. You guys are probably one of the most hardworking people that on Saturday we still get together and talk about ESG. So this is a moment that we should applaud ourselves that we are taking on this journey. So let me share my screen and kind of talk a little bit about the journey that I have and how I got here. So Vera already introduced what I've done in the past. So I kind of want to pick it up from there. So there was actually a turning point that from a regular senior serial entrepreneur to somebody that's that's in the field of ESG, CSR, and somebody mentioned SRI, and we started to see the world going the trend of impact investing, responsible investing. All these terms have been happening so fast lately, actually. So so I want to share with you how I got into this journey. So this is my daughter Puka, and she was 4 months old at the time. And I want to share with you this little video, if you guys can see it. So this is a 2011. What do you guys see? And feel free to leave your thoughts in Indonesian or in English. That's fine. But what do you see in this video? You can leave in the chat. So we're seeing this smoke, right, coming from the motorcycles. And I was in my journey of being an entrepreneur, I was away from Taiwan for 20 years. And I came from this little, well, it's not little, it's actually the second largest city in Taiwan, south of Taiwan. And when I left, this is what it looks like. But when I came back, it still looks like this. After 20 to almost 30 years of business innovation around the world, we're still seeing situations like this. And this started to impact me because when I have my daughter, I started to feel like maybe this is relevant to me, right? I've been doing business, and but how come it looks like this should be improving, but nothing really much was happening? Okay. So so that was my first kind of introduction to there's something that maybe got to do with us, us meaning the business people, okay? And then the second part is when I was in Bangkok, and I want to show you guys this small video. Let me know what you see. So we have this little baby on the side of the street, right? I was in Bangkok representing the business group for APAC, right? And then inside the business meeting, we were in the Western Hotel. Inside the business meeting, we were talking about, yeah, what can we do to improve the economy in Asia, and how can we drive collaboration and innovations in Asia? And then when we come out, this is the first thing we see. So with this two experience started to let me think about maybe business role is not only business. Business role could be used as a force for good. So this is how I started getting involved with one, creating Domi, as Vera mentioned earlier, and then to start driving the B Corp movement in Asia. Maybe some of you know what B Corp is. It's a group of companies in the world that made a decision. Doesn't matter if you're one person company or you are 100,000 employees. They all decided to use business as a force for good. So you can kind of think of this concept as the beginning of ESG, okay? And so I launched the B Corp Asia movement 7 years ago. And right now there's 17 countries and about 120 B Corps. So globally, the passing rate to become a B Corp is about 4%. And there's about 100,000 companies apply for B Corp at this point. And interesting, a couple of years ago, I think this was 2018 or 2019, I was in Indonesia to give the B Corp certification to Danone, Aqua. And right now, I think they're called Aqua, right? Okay, so this is kind of my background, my journey into this, this ESG, how company can make impact with their business. So today we're going to talk about the rising trend of ESG and then how to create new business value with it. So somebody mentioned in our group that they are not familiar with ESG. ESG is actually very new, okay? And so I want to kind of take you to the beginning first to understand all these terminology about ESG, CSR, SDG, you know, and then what's happening, sustainability, what's happening with all these elements. So if you do have any question, feel free to leave it in English or in Indonesian and somebody will help. But I really want us to have that interaction because these issues are very relevant to each of us. That right now we all live in a world that there's so many things need to be changed, right? And globally, we have a term for that, which is the UN SDG. To summarize the problems that we're seeing on climate change, on corruption, on women's injustice, inequalities, and in slaveries, all these issues that we're seeing right now, it gets condensed into this SDG. But to solve this problem, we need a lot of resource, okay? So to start with this, before, as a regular citizen, you know, before I started knowing what any of this, before when I was just a businessman, I was relying on government and nonprofit organizations to tackle these issues, right? And I think they did the best job they can to trying to tackle all these issues that's happening in our society, right? But the first question I wanted to ask you is, where are the resources? If we have the human power, manpower to tackle these issues, but how about resource? How are the resources allocated within a society or around the world? So I want to raise this question to you first. So the first group of people is government. How much money gets generated in a country and how many percent goes to the government? And then how much goes to the nonprofit organization? And how much of that resource go to corporates? So do you guys want to give it a shot? How many do you think it goes to the companies, for example? All the money that gets generated in 1 year. So I'll pause a little bit and let you guys take a shot. How many percent do you think it goes to company? How many percent goes to government? And how many percent goes to nonprofit organizations? I'm gonna wait for some answers before I go forward. Maybe I'll ask Andrew for help. Anyone? 90% go to company. Okay. Thank you. All right. So that's very close, right? So globally, let's look at the number in the US, right? So about 80% of the money goes to corporation, right? So that leave only 20% of nonprofits and governments to tackle the issues that we talked about just now, the SDGs, right? That we have poverty problems, we have environmental problems, and all these problems, we do have people that's doing something about it. But the problem is that they only have 20% of resource to tackle these issues. So I want you to keep that in mind, in the back of your mind, that why now in the world, we are asking company to be part of it, okay? And then a way to ask company to be part of it is ESG, okay? So, so I'm going to, the next small part, we're gonna talk about a few names. And I kind of want to make these names make sense to you. So if you can later, I'm gonna ask you to turn on your camera, and then we're gonna try to kind of, do a little exercise to understand how these names means. So let me explain what ESG is. So ESG is simply 3 words: environmental, social, and governance. Okay, and these 3 words, it's actually started by investors trying to push the companies to support these 3 things. Okay, so let me kind of show some few elements of ESG. So E means environmental issues, right? Resource, emissions, waste, biodiversities, and social means that hold on a sec, means that there's human capital issues, health safety issues, as well as social issues, right? Issue that's outside the company's scope, all right? So when companies started in the journey of sustainability, right? And sustainability, it's actually directly linked to ESG, which is the opposite side. ESG is the demand coming from investors. Sustainability is what company does to achieve it, okay? So for sustainability, the company's goal is to become a regenerative operation, all right? So what does that mean by regenerative? Meaning that right now, majority of the business operate in a way of extractive, right? Meaning that we extract products, we extract materials, we package them, and then we sell to the consumer. After the consumer use it, they throw it away. So the whole process is an extractive process that we're taking from the environment, converting into something, and then turning it into trash into our environment again, right? So the part about what company and what ESG is intending for is for the company to move on this journey of sustainability and then to build a regenerative model in their business, right? So what does regenerative means? Means that we put more than we take out in the world. It also means that let's make better the world than we found it in the first place. And this is very huge. This is a huge thing because before we were just taking, we're not trying to understand what kind of impact are we making. But right now, our nature is not able to regenerate itself anymore, right? Our way of damaging it, it's going faster than nature is, recovering it. So ESG's terms got created by investors, right?
Curious gitu. Oh.
Hah?
Kalau Kima curious,
Some questions?
curiousnya kalau di jalan.
Kawan-kawan boleh tolong di mute dulu ya.
Are we okay? All right,
Okay.
I'll move forward then. Okay, thank you. So ESG gets created by investors. That these investors want the company to head to this direction so that one, of course, they're investors, so they can continue to make money. And second, they're hoping, believe it or not, they're hoping to make the world better also. So this becomes an initiative that's driving company from investors for company to act on these 3 elements: environment, social, and governance. Okay. So before I share a little more about investors, I want to talk about the 3 words first. So it's a 3 bucket, right? That investor want the companies to show what they are doing in the 3 buckets. And before, like as Vera mentioned before, that I had a public company in the past. So for public company, and we probably have some public company presence here also. For a public company, there's a very strong demands on governance inside of our organization, right? We need to do governance report, like quarterly reports all the time, right? But for E and S, it's something that the investor now want company to operate, okay? So let me show you an example. This is the largest shareholder in the world, Blackstone, CEO of Blackstone. And this is from their 2022 report that it says that putting your company's purpose as your foundation to your stakeholders is critical to long-term success. So stakeholders, and they're no longer talking about shareholders anymore. So it is the company's duty to attract capital in a responsible and sustainable ways, right? And so in their 2022 report, they want all the company that they invest, one, to be careful about climate risk, to make sure they have a broad diversity in their organization. They demand company to have sustainability report, and then they want ESG measurement in their executive, meaning the senior management, to have linked to their compensation, right? So they want the performance of, is everyone okay? Hold on a second, I want to check. I think my screen share is terminated. Vera, can you guys still see the slides?
You're not sharing the screen, Corey. Can you?
No, it just got terminated just now. So when I click on screen share, oh, okay, it's coming back now. 1 second. Okay, so we'll carry on. So, so they want the company to have these ESG measurements that's linked to the senior management's salary compensation, right? And lastly, they want the company to change their form to a B Corp, which is a benefit corporation status, meaning that the company is no longer just accountable to shareholders, but they are also accountable to stakeholders, their customers, their environments, their community that they live in, right? So this is coming from the largest investor in the world and the asset owners of all the company in the world. This is the statement that they make out this year, right? And then we have a group of 500 investors come together to demand all the company that they invest to act on climate, to head towards net zero. So these are all the effort that's driving towards to company to have this ESG modeling. Doesn't matter you're small or big. The investor, if you want to attract investor, the investor is going to demand on you perform on environment, social, and governance. So I want to bring these 3 words together that that we probably heard along our way, you know, in this direction about sustainability, about ESG, about CSR. So in the middle, there's this white border, which is the border of the company, right? And we have these 3 words. We have sustainability, we have CSR, we have ESG. So in case, just for the people that's not familiar with the acronym, CSR is corporate social responsibility, meaning that you know, in the past, company would do donations, they would do philanthropy work to help outside of the company for the people that's in need, right? And then sustainability is what companies should be doing to sustain the long-term environmental and social responsibility. And ESG is coming, the pressure is coming from investors. So I want to, you know, if you don't want to turn on your camera, it's okay, but if you can, I want you to use your finger, right? And then kind of point in the direction where is this energy or pressures coming for this particular word, all right? So this is a small exercise to get yourself familiar to understand what these terms are. So first, for CSR, right, where's this energy going? If this middle part is its company, then where is this energy going? Is it going to the right or is it going to the left? So historically, for CSR, it's company going outside to support, peoples that's in need, or environmental issues or animal issues. So the energy is coming from company inside to the corporate outside, all right? And then for ESG, like I mentioned, it's investors' pressuring the company to act on sustainability. So the third word is sustainability. So where is this direction of energy for sustainability? It's actually inward, inside the company, right? It's pushing company to become regenerative, okay? So sustainability isn't something that you do for CSR. It's actually something that you do, including CSR, into your organization, right? So, so just to recap, CSR is something voluntary outward. ESG is expectations and pressure coming from shareholders. And then sustainability is actually a mind shift that happens inside the company, the people that's running the company, that we need to head towards a regenerative society, a regenerative business operation, okay? So this is a critical foundation for what we're talking about today. And later I'm gonna show you examples about how companies are heading towards to this. So all these three words will come together when you look at the on the company's perspective. So we have CSR, we have ESG, we have sustainability, and then we have this SDG goals, which is linked to sustainability, right? Okay, so this four words creates a permission, a space that opens up for company. Before a company can only do business, you cannot do anything that's not related to making money, right? Or the whole design, it's about how to maximize the money you make, right? But now there's so the innovation that you have for your business only inside of business innovation. You cannot do any other type of innovation inside the company, all right? But now this new space open up is that we have investors, we have society, and we have sustainability, all supporting company to do a new type of innovation. That of course makes money, but at the same time makes the world better, all right? So we are getting this, this what we call game changers. What can a game changer do inside the space to make difference when you have permission coming from customer, coming from employees, and coming from shareholders, okay? So now the business landscape change. Now you have permission coming from your customer. Can you do something good? Don't just sell me product, but also do something good. You have employees inside the company that they want to do something meaningful, not just to sell another water or sell another product or service. They're hoping that what they do on a daily life not only make money, but also help other people. And then you have shareholders that wants company to act, because on one, if company don't act, we might not have place to do business anymore, right? And then on the other hand, shareholders are also humans. They're hoping to preserve a better future for our society onwards, all right? So think about this new space that people can innovate on now that did not exist before, okay? This is very, very important. This space did not exist in the past. And now company, you either do it willingly, you either do it with passion, or somebody's forcing you to do it, all right? So all these things are all coming together right now, right? So with this space, it presents a lot of opportunity, right? Somebody asked that, well, how about small company? Can small company do something about ESG? The answer is yes, right? How do you link your product and service to social and environmental issues, right? In a way that is not donation, but in a way it actually mutually benefit each other, okay? This is a very important underlying mindset. You know, before we think that small companies not able to contribute, because the definition of contribution, it's about donation. But now it's about innovation. What can you innovate with your product and service? What can you innovate with your business model that links to social and environmental issues that both help the environment, but at the same time make you money, all right? Okay, so so when this issue gets presented, let me kind of look at in the middle and large and multinational companies' point of view, right? Just now we talk about small organizations. For large organizations, it started to raise some question about how do we position ourselves? Do we want to position ourselves as pre-compliance, meaning that I don't want to comply to this. I just keep doing my business my way and then see what happens later. Or we see a compiler, which means that I just do minimal, very little, enough so that I don't get fined, I don't get violation of regulations. All right. Or I can become a case maker, somebody that really think about initiative and programs that we can do to become a case maker for ourselves, but also for other people. And then there's another type of company that thinks very differently, right? That they see this opportunity to innovate, right? So maybe my competitor all sells the same product, right? But I'm going to link my product to social environmental issues, and then to design a model that it will work as a new innovation, right? It might not change the product itself, but it actually changed the business model. So this is the fourth type of middle and large company that they will do. And lastly, the ultimate level that we're seeing globally is company that drive with passion and purpose. That they understand as a company, they can make a difference, right? And what are they going to do with that energy of the difference that they can make and start changing the game for their industry, right? So I'm going to share with you two cases of companies, right? And these two cases, one is a company that started this journey a longer while ago, right? And the other one is a company that started this journey just this couple of years, right? So the first company I want to share with you is Novo Nordisk. So maybe some of you might know what this company is. They're the 6th largest pharmaceutical company in the world, right? and they primarily focusing on diabetes products. Okay, so as we know, diabetics is a huge issue in our society globally, right? So they actually started this whole journey in year 2000, right? And then they started thinking about what are the things they can do on environmental, social, and governance. But before, it didn't have this name, right? But you can see that they have been driven quite many initiatives on one, diabetics. What can they do besides selling diabetic products to the people that's in need? And you can also see that they're doing something about climate. They're driving this whole climate partnership to reach circular zero, right? So this is their CEO, and the methodology that they implement is called TBL, triple bottom line, meaning that we cannot just look at our profit, but we need to look at the cost of environment that we are making, and then the social issues that we're making, right? So it's back then we didn't have the term of ESG, but basically that's what it is: financial, environment, and governance, and social issues, right? So so they started this model of looking at these three elements, and they start looking at this value system, this framework of layers that they're doing. So the outer layer is what they manifest outside, like other people see. But internally, they implement a structure and practices so that the company can head towards this triple bottom line model, right? And then the core is their value and belief, which is what I mentioned earlier, is the purpose of the organization. Why do we exist? What are we going to do with our business? What kind of impact can we make? Right. So these are critical questions that they ask themselves, and then they act on these beliefs. So interestingly, they went back and looked at their past, right? And this is the much earlier CEO of Novo Nordisk, and this person is called the father of CSR in Denmark. So he started raising this question, asking that, where is it written that you can decide to start your own business and hire all the best talents in the society and use the society's infrastructure and then use everything out there without having the integrity of paying it back, right? So this is the type of critical questions that they ask themselves as a company over 20-something years ago, right? So he made this position, made this definition that they don't want people, when they hear about Novo Nordisk, is the company that is making diabetes drugs. But they want people to remember and to perceive Novo Nordisk as a company that improve diabetic, right? To improve that disease situation. It's not the company that makes drugs, but to improve diabetics. And then to improve hiring condition. So to make the people that work there that has a better life and improve the environment, right? So this is back a long time ago when they started this. But right now, if you have an opportunity to go to Novo Nordisk's website, you'll see they started this initiative for sustainable business, and is to link the group of companies that come together to achieve zero environmental impacts, right? Oops, sorry, let me. So this is the message.
What happens to the waste from your business?
Do you use recycled materials wherever you can?
How do you transport your products?
How much water do you use?
Why don't you only use green energy?
Can your products be recycled?
Could you ever stop using plastics?
What are you doing to stop climate change?
Each year, 29 million people rely on our medicines. Producing them puts us on the front line of some of today's biggest environmental challenges. So we've set ourselves a bold ambition to have zero environmental impact. How will we get there? When will we get there? The truth is, we don't have all the answers. But as a science-based company, we know that the journey to the most meaningful answers begins by tackling the most difficult questions. Our journey.
So there's couple messages there, right? One is that they started asking themselves all these questions about how their products are making impact in the society. There's water, there's plastics, you know, because they're a big operation. So they started asking what they can do with that, you know. And this kind of question, even if you're a one-person company, 3 people company, you can ask yourself, is there something that I can do to make difference on my daily level? Okay. I want to use that video as a quick example about things that we can do, right? And then the second thing is that they say they don't have all the answers. This is a journey that needs to be discovered. So I want to thank the person that was asking, can engineering companies do something about this? And the answer is yes, we need you to do something about it, because you are trained with scientific engineering methodology and mindset that to tackle these questions and then to coming up with answers. And those are very, very important. So right now, globally, there's about 5,000 B Corps, right? And you know, some of the well-known brands that you're seeing, and you know, like in Indonesia will be Aqua. And they are all asking these kind of questions, right? And among them, about 25% are heavy engineering companies, right? Because they know that the design that they makes a great impact. If you're building, you know, you're building infrastructures, if you're building dams, you're building energy systems, how you think about it and design it makes a tremendous difference. So right now, for example, Domi is working with the largest heavy moving company in the world, and whenever that they move something, they move like these energy stations, wind power turbines, right? Whenever they move something, if they think about the designs, they could minimize a lot of their environmental outputs. All right, okay. So that's the first example, a company that started this journey a long time ago, and they continue to persist because they have a core value that we don't want it just to be remembered as a diabetic drug production company, but we want it to be remembered that we make a difference in the hiring condition, we made a difference in the environment, and then we make a difference in people's life when it comes to diabetics. All right. So you know, to look at this in a way that it requires a lot of designs inside a company to make a difference. And actually, if I can try to answer some question before we go on, maybe that's easier for everybody digest going forward. So if it's okay for me to answer the English ones first, and then if somebody can help with the Indonesian ones to let me understand. So so Vera, I'll start with the English ones first then. All right.
Please.
So we have a question about ESG need much money, which is the cost, but many companies suffer the current condition due to COVID and the continued global crisis. So how do we survive first and then or ESG first, right? Okay, that's a very, very valid question, especially now, right? And we're seeing a lot of trends lately. For example, in my role as for B Corp Asia, we're having a lot of company applying to become a B Corp now, right? That they want to have this mindset to run business because they realize how interconnected we are now due to COVID, right? So we need a new way of working. We need a new way to operate. And this needs a new, totally new thinking. So for ESG, you can see a lot of examples like there's IKEA in Indonesia, right? The furniture store. Yeah, I believe so. Okay, so for example, like IKEA, the process of going ESG is actually become reducing money for them, right? It's actually reducing costs instead of spending costs. And then for companies like Nespresso or like the coffee company Illy, that they realize that the more they spend time into interacting and supporting the community, it actually betters for their business also, right? So they're seeing this effect of, you know, engaging with ESG, it actually at the same time produce more output for the organization, but not necessarily in terms of you need to spend more money. So it's more about the mindset and the design. Of course, there's money part involved, but it's a lot about the mindset design, the operation design, and then to release the resource inside the organization. Okay, and then the second question is obstacle and challenge on implementing ESG. I will actually refer back to money. So of course, like I'm joking, but the thing is that it all started with design, right? So if you don't have your organization understanding the mindset that before, when we talk about, if we are staying at the CSR mindset, right, which is what normally when we think about ESG, right, we think about, okay, so I need to spend money to do community engagement. I need to do donations. I need to change my manufacturing, right? I need to update my machines, right? So these are obstacles and challenges that exist when people's mindset is only about that. But how about the things that we can do to make these changes without necessarily switching the system or the hardware? So it started with overcoming. The first thing is the mindset. That how do we look at ourselves that we can design our product and service to link with social environmental issues. So let me give you a quick example. That you're a company that you want to make changes in the community around you, right? That it's in Indonesia, it's a developing country, there's so many people in need, just in 5 kilometers around my companies, right? That's already a big task to take on, but you want to do something about it. So how can you link with the sales of your product to the community improvement that you can do? So if you start thinking it that way, For example, you guys might heard of the company Tom's, that if you buy a shoes from Tom's, it supports the shoes to the community that's in need, right? So it actually increase the revenue for Tom's and increase the total net profit for Tom's, okay? So those are the mechanism and examples that you should take reference from in Asian community, in global community to do that. And let's maybe pick up some more questions, and then I'll get into the second examples.
Yes, we do have one more question, but it's in Indonesian. Do you want me to? Do you want to answer it now or later?
Yeah, please go ahead. Then
Okay.
I'll think
Okay,
about
so
it. It's
there's
relevant later.
There was one question from Rieni Subianto. She is an SME entrepreneur in fashion industry, products made while ensuring leaving no fabric waste. So it's a zero waste fashion company. The question is ESG only apply for big corporations, and is it a must to have a special certifications, especially for smaller company?
Okay, so there's two levels. One is ESG is applied to all the companies, right? And you know, to talk about the core, is sustainability, right? Which what your company is doing already, right? You're designing a fashion in zero waste, right? ESG is just investors' point of view to report, to let the investor know what you're doing on these three buckets. And in the future, if you want to raise more capitals, especially from impact-driven investors, or like all the investors right now is already more than about 30% of investment funds are ESG driven. Okay, so of course, as an entrepreneur, it's important if you want to access capitals, having an ESG plan within your organization will be critical. Okay, and so but this is not only limited to large companies, small ones, and you know, these are all matters to them. All right, so I'll move forward some more with the second example, and this is also an example that we're familiar with. Most of us probably familiar with is Logitech, and they are very, very new to ESG, right? And to ESG meaning sustainability, because ESG is just a term coming from investor to look at the companies. All right, so so Logitech is the 48 top brands in the world, right? So when they started this journey to look at what they're going to focus on, they came up with this chart. It's called materiality assessment, right? So on one hand, they look at what is the stakeholders' importance, like what the stakeholders care about, meaning my employees, my community, my countries, right? What are these outside stakeholders' interest level or importance levels, right? So that's on one hand, and on the other hand is what is the internally, what we can create the most sustainability impact, right? So this case is more to a large corporation, right? So you can see that over here that the crossover that come up, which is quite interesting. The first one is climate action, right? We need to do something about environment that's both impacting our way of life and also impacting humans and animals and you know, biodiversity, right? And then the top ones that the stakeholders are care about is ethics, diversity, human rights, right? And then internally, the stuff that can make the most impactful is climate change, design for sustainability, responsible packaging, right? So from this company, they started looking at, this is the highest crossover for climate action. This is the most important thing that we should be doing, right? So from there, they started this journey, and this is the interview from last year.
Talk about how you're going to get to that goal by 2030?
Yeah, you know, actually, we're going to be carbon neutral this year, we're announcing today. And then we're going to be climate positive by 2030. Our goal is to be climate positive, which means we'll be taking more carbon out of the air than we're putting in. And we're going to take down our carbon output of the company and all of its suppliers and customers by 50% by then. So it's a big commitment and a big announcement about being carbon neutral today. In terms of really dealing with the existing products, we've already started down the path of being
okay, for them as a company,
talk about how you're going to get
they
to
already
that
achieved,
2030?
they're already achieved
actually
carbon neutral, right? So meaning that they are now at this point, making the emission that they cause, they're actually neutralizing. So as a huge company globally, right now they're not making any additional impact into the environment, right? So I want to share with you when they look at their organization and how they do this. Okay, so for this mindset inside their organization, the key part is called design for sustainability, right? And there's two key elements. One is the people, second is environment, right? So when they target this whole journey, this is their design philosophy within their organization, that they want to make sure that sustainability is pervasive inside their organization. So it's not something only a group of people do, but it has to be across the company. And then the value the value of sustainability has to reflect in their culture. And then the product that they design have to improve carbon toxicity, circularity, and social impact. All right. So these are the key elements that design that's critical for them to go forward. And they call this the new design of Design 4.0. So for them, the journey is to reach climate positive. So in the future, every product you buy from Logitech has to make the environment better than making it worse, right? So that's the target for them. So they started this journey only very recently, right? Started 2019, right before COVID, right? That they made this commitment that their company will contribute to this commitment of 1.5 climate pledge, right? And then by 2020, they have to finish all the carbon labeling of all their products. So to understand their carbon impact in the society. And then by 2021, which is the video that I showed you, that they already achieved carbon neutrality, meaning that their product now would be carbon neutral. That when you buy it, you're not costing any environmental issues. Of course, this is through offsets, right? And then the next step is to achieve net zero, meaning that right now they are producing this carbon through manufacturing and distribution. And by 2021, they've been finding ways to cancel this environmental impact. But by 2030, their production needs to be zero emission impact, right? So this is a huge goal that needs to accomplish in 8 years, that they need to go through engineering and design to come up with ways to tackle these goals. And then by 2030, the organization need to reach climate positive, right? So this is the carbon clarity part, that on every product now, it shows 7.84 carbon by this mouse. And then a year later, on 2021, the product is now carbon neutral. So if you bought the product in 2000 and 2001, it'll be different. And also very important is that the organizations, for them, two factors very important. One is having to track the footprint, right? And then second thing, it's what we call the handprints, which is our social impact in our operations. So for them in the beginning, when I mentioned that when they went on this journey of design for sustainability, they say two most important elements. One is people, one is environment, right? Okay, so so I wanna conclude that that with this two example, there's two main things that a company need to do when they are in this journey of having this pressure or this direction of ESG, or they're heading this journey of sustainability. So one is impact business model design, right? You gotta start thinking about how your product be linked to these impact issues, these social environmental issues. And then the second thing is impact organization transformation. Is that how do you start the journey internally to change the culture and the mindset of the organization? And this is two of the most critical elements that you need to have. It's not necessary in the beginning related to your product itself. It's about how you do the business, right? So it's not about the product itself, but it's this process that the organization need to go through. Is to start having this mindset about we gotta start design impact business model. And then second thing is we gotta communicate these elements so that the organization will start shifting, okay? And this is very interesting because normally when we're trying to change cultures and mindsets inside the organization, we usually experience pushbacks, right? We usually experience that that people don't want to change. This is not the way. This is not how I do it before. But the part about this ESG and sustainability shift is that this is on one, the management can no longer say that, well, this is spending money. This is not what the shareholder wants, okay? Usually the first pushback from management is that we don't have the money for it, right? We cannot do this. But the situation right now is that the investor want you to do it, right? Investor is seeing a great importance now that if you don't do this, you might not have a company down the road, right? Your company is gonna under a lot of pressure going forward. And then second thing, within the organization, people want to do good if they can do it during the day. And I want to say that as a half joke, all right? If we are asked to do good outside of company hours, which a lot of CSR activities like that, right? Yeah, let's go help people after 6 o'clock. Let's go help people on the weekend. Let's go help people. Let's go help the environment on the weekend. Let's go to the beach and clean up. The problem is people need to compete with their own life, right? Their own personal life. But the concept of sustainability, the concept of ESG, is something that you do during the day. So we actually see a lot of support coming from the organization that people want to do something about it. They're excited. There's some way that they can make changes and try things differently. So if you look at this chart, that there's element for this ESG, there's about employees. What are the things that we can do with employees? What can we do with community? What can we do with environment? What can we do with governance? And what can we do with our customer? Is there any other fun ways that we can engage our customer besides just selling them product, right? Can we invite them and engage them to this social environmental issues that we can tackle together, right? So this is what's called the impact business model design, right? So I wanted to kind of give you a high level about, you see these two companies. One is they discovered this journey a long time ago and they started doing that, right? And then they get back to their core. Is that what do they care about? What is the missions and purpose that they want to impact on the products that they make, the business that they operate? And then you see companies like Logitech, right? That they are new to this journey and they are finding ways to move as fast as they can, right? And these are something that's happened actually in a very short period of time, especially during COVID, is that companies started to realize that they have a much greater responsibility. And if they act on those responsibility, their customer actually respond to it, right? So this is the report that came out last year that they're advising Asian companies, right, that they need to integrate sustainability into their core. It cannot no longer like CSR that let's put it in the foundation or put it in division of the company. It has to be across, especially on sales, marketing, and operation, right? And then second is that they need to integrate this into how to drive business values, and then to develop a two-way communication channel, which means that they need to be listening from their stakeholders as well, right? So so in opposite, when companies are not doing that, you're seeing companies focusing more on how do we rate our companies? How do we focus more on communication with our customer, our investor, than actually making changes? And how do we, companies not connecting with their business strategy when they're doing this? It becomes a side project, or it's compliance focus, or it's inconsistent across organizations, right? So so I want to wrap this up with a few observations. Okay, we are all living in Asia, right? And there's 41 extreme poverty coming from here, right? And there's 44% of carbon emission coming from our region. That means that a big group of people around us is not living well, right? Because of poverty, but at the same time because of pollution, right? And it also means that Asia needs to create a very significant progress. Otherwise, globally right now, we're aiming to reach all these sustainability goals by 2030. And if Asia don't have a pathway to make that happen, globally will not achieve it. So with these issues, here's the opportunity. You can approach this as a technical fix, meaning that, hey, can we just do something and make sure that we are doing something, okay? Or you can look at this as an adaptive challenge, like what Nova North is saying. We have to head to this direction. We don't have all the answers, but we need to bring people around us together onto this journey so we can make changes. This is a very different business mindset. I wanted to stress that because this is the mindset that when I run business in the past myself, or like I was educated in University of Chicago, which is the #1 business school in the world, we never teach that. We never teach any of this. So most of the business people don't know this. And you guys are the unique group of people that's knowing this right now. But this is a very different mindset. It's about how to bring yourself and other people onto this journey, and then to focus on how do we make this change? How do we make this direction, right? So this is the journey of, on the right-hand side, taking that journey of adaptive challenge, and then start having this conversation to make this change. So I want to share with you a methodology and a program that we designed. It's called Leading Contours Culture. How do we bring people onto it? So we say that there's two critical elements. One is the business model design. The other one is the impact organization transformation that need to happen. And this is something called the Adaptive Game Changer program, right? And this is something that I realized that more so in Asia, but we haven't taught how to do that, right? That we can understand the concept, the trendy concept of sustainability, SDG, ESG very quickly. But how do we have this core transformation inside our organization? And you being the professional, how do you lead that change? Because that change needs to go upwards, right? You need to manage upwards. You need to find ways to collaborate horizontally. And then you need to lead people under you to head to this direction, to shift company from an extractive model to a regenerative model, to shift company from mindset from just business to a purpose-driven business, right? What is the purpose when we come together? And then to bring company, the business network, your supply chain, to a supply chain concept to become an impact chain concept. So this is not something that you do only by yourself, right? And somebody mentioned that, yes, oh, so that means that you need to do investment. But oftentimes when you start building this business network, it's actually shared across that business network of that investment. It's not just you. And then the leadership actually changes. The mindset from shareholder driven to stakeholder driven. And lastly, the organization team will also shift from a perk incentive driven, right? How do we incentivize the team to actually understand the intrinsic motivation of the organization? So this is a journey that needs to be taken, right? That you need to start with purpose. You need to have this new view of how this journey will look like. And then you need to start how to craft these operations and meanings inside your organization. And you start using this as a way to weave the business network together, to build the program together, and then to navigate towards that issue, towards the adaptive issues that we're talking about. And then lastly, to reflect and learn, and then to build this sustainability culture, this ESG culture into your organization. So before I wrap up, give me a sec. I want to jump over that in this past few years, we've been helping companies in Asia for those change, right? So Zurich Pharma is the largest pharmaceutical company, logistic company in Asia. And then Mamu is the largest globally moving companies that they move large devices across the land and water. And then companies like UBS Bank, companies like Tesla, and IKEA in Asia. And what we noticed is that there's one way to engage the company to have this, for these type of company that they are large, they are able to have this resource to make this change. And by the individuals, it's very difficult to access that knowledge, that experience. And so through this journey, actually in the partnership with DKK, is that we started this program for adaptive game changers across Asia, so that the Asian organization that we are much more similar in terms of our economic developments, right? More of us are in the same situation, that we're manufacturing base, we're export base, and then the general culture that we're not as sustainable, and we don't have that kind of practice that often inside business in the Asian countries. So to bring together this Asian cohorts that we're able to share our experience and challenges together, and then we're able to learn global cases, but also Asian cases. So somebody had a lot of interest in terms of how about small companies, and how about startups, how about a mid-sized company or large company that their key operations in Asia, how do they make these changes? So in the past, with COVID and with Zoom, we're actually able to bring people from different countries together, and then to have this workshop together, so that we're able to learn directly from these cases and directly from each other. So so we have I think the program in July is coming in July, and we have limited seat for each country. So I want to share with you, and I want to urge you to take this action to be part of this program, and to share your issues by the same time, to learn from each country and learn together for these cases, so that you can make the changes inside your organization. So before I end, I wanted to see, there's some more questions, and I want to tackle them. So let's do that. And Vera, do you want to say something first, or if there's any questions that you want to highlight?
Okay, thank you, Corey, for the very insightful lecture. We have several more questions here from the audience. Read it for you. So first is from Aprilin Margaret from Bandung. I want to ask if one of the ESG elements does not exist in the company. So what will happen to the company? Will there be a big impact on the company's economy?
Okay, so if you look at lately from EU, right, that they move much earlier with ESG, and what they realize is that company usually would take on environmental issues, like governance issues. Company would take it because if they're publicly listed or if they're large shareholder companies, they would do something about G, right? But they did more on environment than social issues. Okay, so right now there's actually a huge push for company that have to act on both. And it's up to companies' innovation to connect this two. And it can be connected. In the future, if we have more chance to share, that I can share a lot of examples that companies actually tackling sales, environment, and social issue with one single activity. Okay, and which that's a perfect scenario, because that means that you don't need to spend extra money. But more importantly about design. So yes, there'll be a clear pushback from your investor if you don't have these models in place. Okay, let me Yeah, go ahead.
Another
Please.
question from Retno from Depok. Dear Cory, the keyword is change the mindset, but it's very difficult to convince the stockholder, although it will make profit or better impact for sustainability of the company. Based on your experience, is there any relationship between the implementation of the ESG SDGs with gender equality, meaning that female leader will be easier to implement ESG than male leaders? Do you have any experience?
Okay. That's a great question, because gender equality is very important. And if let me share with one slide. Okay. I want to use this example coming from Blackstone, which is the largest investor, right? And they actually asked for board diversity, right? Meaning that it should have inclusion and equality inside the board also. And their argument is about groupthink, right? That if we have too many similar people or genders or gender preference, we will only think more in that direction in terms of how our customer will respond. We will only more towards that direction in terms of our product and service design. And that is not good for business. Let's maybe move the equality and social noble cause on the side first. It's not good for business when the leadership is not thinking inclusive. So I do think, I think that's down from the angle of the largest investor. On my personal experience, I would say yes also, because that conversation would be more dynamic. That discussion will be more dynamic. That dynamic will help us think about how do we become more holistic, right? And then I think female does play a very strong role in that, being holistic, to think about, we need to include these elements together. We cannot just think about feelings, but not thinking about mechanism. Or we cannot just think about mechanism, but not thinking about feelings. Because the world going forward, the business landscape actually going to change a lot. So being that inclusive is very important. All right? And thank you for your question. And there is Arthur.
Yes, there's another one from Arthur, Jakarta. Such a great presentation, Cory, based on the example given and how the impact is usually measured. In my opinion, ESG is more relevant and to be applied to product or manufacturing company. So how can a company that offers service as the product, such as school or hospital, to contribute to ESG?
Well, that's wonderful. If that's what you're doing, I think there's a very direct link. Is that you can start thinking about. I mean, like let me give you some numbers first. Like about 20% of the companies are in manufacturing, in engineering, and then about another 30% are in manufacturing, product manufacturing. The rest it's mostly in service. And service industry, there's not much you can, it's much less in terms of your environmental impact because your product and service doesn't take up that much natural resource. But there's a lot of impacts you can make with the service because you are in communication, right? So how do you design your communication to incorporate with your product and service that's related to improve the knowledge mindsets of social environmental issues to your customers? How do you link that? That's one. The second is, how does your product right now impacts social environmental issues? And then the third part is to think about how do you innovate on top of that? So those are the steps that I would go to. One is, how can I help the communication, the education piece of it through my service? The second is how my product is impacting at this point. And then the third one is how do I innovate further in that direction? Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else?
Yes, one last question. I think this is the last question for our session today. From Erina, she wants you to explain the easiest way, the simplest, the flow to achieve the ESG.
The simplest way. One, talk about purpose inside your organization. Why do we exist, right? What do we care about together? And second, link what you care about to your product and service. Link it. There's so many ways to link it, but link it. Think about it. Like, doesn't matter what product you're selling. Right now, we're seeing all these kind of innovations that link to the purpose, the things that people care about. And I think we have one more question. Sorry, let me read that. How do we know companies implement ESG or non-public company? Is there independent agency assessment? Is there a punishment from government if does not? Okay, so let me talk about government part. Right now, there's a lot of government or public stock exchange that's pushing for ESG rating, right? So that's one. So if you're a large company, yes, there's a strong mandatory action that's required. The second part is that there's a lot of incentive program that's coming from governments in Asia that there's no punishment if small companies don't do anything, but there's incentive if you do. So the bank, especially financial industry, are giving a lot of support. If you act on ESG, there's a loan you can get, there's grants you can get for you to do that. And lastly, employees. I think employee wants to go to a company that's doing more than just selling the product. Okay, so if the independent agency for assessing ESG. So right now, like B Corp is one that you can assess your overall social and environmental impact and your governance. So actually B Corp assess 5 elements. Besides environment, social, and governance, B Corp also look at how you interact with your customer and how you interact with your employees and communities. Okay, so the independent agency right now, I think will be the one that's doing this comprehensive work is B Corp. And actually, let me link to an earlier question that somebody mentioned about SROI. So SROI is the ROI on the return on investment on a particular project. So if you do have a social or environmental project, you can use SROI to measure the performance of that project. But ESG is a broader scope. Are we doing these 3 things? And SROI is how you measure how well are you doing it. Okay. All right. So so there's 2 QR codes here. On the right hand side is Domi's website on adaptive game changer that you guys can know more about how to engage in that. On the left hand side is that if you want to speak somebody about how to take that journey to be part of this game changers in Asia and build this cohort together, that you can link to what's going on with Japan, what's going on with Korea, with Taiwan, that how are people doing this inside their countries. You can interact with people in Thailand, and ways for us to be exposed to this so we're able to implement it in our country. So let me stop here, and Vera, I'll pass it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Corey. That was an insightful discussion. And also thanks to our audience. Thank you for all your energy and enthusiasm for today's webinar. Terima kasih untuk semua pertanyaannya. Mungkin ada kawan-kawan yang masih ingin bertanya atau berdiskusi, tapi sayang sekali kita udah mencapai di penghujung acara webinar kita hari ini. Dan tadi Corey juga sudah share ya kontaknya, bisa dilihat juga mengenai training Domi Game Changer, juga bisa dilihat di website-nya DKK Academy gitu. So Corey, thank you so much. We learned so much from this session. So do you have anything you want to add to summarize today's discussion?
Take action. This is a very interesting space that's happening. It's related to all the business. So be part of it. And if you are heading to this journey, if there's any questions, please feel free, reach out to Vera. Vera know how to find me, or find me anytime. All right.
Okay.
Let's tackle this together. Thank you. Have a good day, guys.